Kalispera. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank Eugenides Foundation and the Instituto Cervantes for inviting me to participate in this meeting. It's a pleasure and an honor also, both academically and personally. Second, I want to apologize for my basic English. It's my fourth language. It's the language we talk, more close language we can use to interact. I will try to do my best, so I will be happy if I can communicate to you my main ideas about literacy, school libraries, and internet era in this context. Okay? I'm a linguist and a researcher on literacy, new literacies. My basic work nowadays is to explore how kids read and write in a classroom where all the kids and also the teacher are connected to the internet and all the learning materials are digital. Okay? It's what we know as one laptop per child programs that we can find in different countries in the world. And well, I discover and I learn a lot of things doing this project about how teachers, how kids, adolescents also, and also how school librarians use this situation, this digital situation, to reinvent or to just change school libraries. Is what I will share with you here. Okay, let's see. Yes. So first, I will use some slides to explain the most important changes that I think we are faced in the internet era. In the second place, I will say something about the approach I think we have to take, just thinking in a new ways for school libraries and libraries. In the third, I will show you some examples, some good practices, I think, and I will finish with 5 main ideas, 5 words I think are important. Okay, let's go to the context. Okay, here you can see, I come from Spain, from Barcelona, but as I am a researcher that visits different congresses in Latin America especially, I will show you different picks from school libraries in different countries in America, in Spanish-speaking and Catalan-speaking or Portuguese-speaking countries. So here, for example, on the left side up, you can see a Bebeteca in Puebla, which is a school. Well, it's not really a school, it's a public library for babies. You can see some babies sleeping, others are reading. On the right side, this is a school library in Spain. This is nice because it comes from a librarian and makes a lot of reflections in a blog you can find on the net. You will have the opportunity to link to all these places on the net with the presentation that will be on the website, I think. Down on the left, you can see a library, a public library for kids also in Chile, in a very poor area. And on the right side, you can see a school library in Uruguay where they have this program, Plan Ceibal, which means that all the kids in Uruguay have one laptop to study. Here you have some of the most important networks in the Spanish countries. You can see, for example, here, this is the website for the network for for school libraries in Chile, which is very, very important. In Chile, for the last 10 years, spent a lot of money organizing school libraries, and one of the most interesting programs for school libraries comes from this country. It's also important in Portugal, where all the country, big and small cities, have and schools have important school libraries connected in this network. This comes from Colombia. Some of the most beautiful libraries I have seen in my life are in Colombia, in Medellin area, for example. It's impressive. They spent a lot of money and political efforts constructing libraries. And last, you have two websites from Spain. The first one is from my country, Catalonia, which was the first one developing informational literacy, yeah, and school libraries at school, and also one of the most active nowadays, which comes from Malaga in Andalusia. I recommend you to link to all these places, and you will see information in Spanish, of course, yeah, but it's not so difficult, really. Okay, and here is nice and very recent research project from this year that analyzes the percentage of internet and communication technologies that the kids have. Yeah, so you can see here, for example, yeah, that 90%, much more of the population of the kids have a computer at home. Yeah, they are also connected to internet. And the most interesting is that they already have a handy phone, yeah, that can use. Yeah? You can see at 10 years, 26% of them they already have, but when they are 15 years old, it arrives at 90%. Yeah? Last week, I had some interviews with some kids coming from different schools from my project, yeah? And I remember a kid, most of the kids explained with 11 or 12 years, they all belong to a conversation group in WhatsApp with all the colleagues, all the kids in the classroom and in the school, yeah? And they share messages every day. They can have, for example, maybe 100, 200, 300 messages per day in WhatsApp conversation, yeah? One explained to me that as he spent 3 days in the country and could connect to the WhatsApp, when came back to school, had 1,500 messages in the phone. So this is the kind of users of our libraries, okay? And the questions, the most important questions, I think, the basic questions are these. Which are the purposes for the school libraries in this moment? Yeah. Where must be? We have to look also for a physical space with books, sure, but only books. Who will use and who will manage this if kids are already online, connected to different resources? Which documents do we have to store and to show in the libraries? Yeah? We are still looking only for books, or we need more games, for example. And some of the interesting talks from this meeting will be about games. Yeah? And what interests more to me, which practices, what can we do? Because the question today is not with books or documents, but with practices. What have to do to mediate, to just help these people to learn to read more and better, okay? So one of the most interesting research I found about the situation is about digital visitors and residents. Sure, you have listened and you know the very well-known and popular metaphor from Mark Prensky, who talks about natives, digital natives, and digital immigrants, okay? It's very popular and interesting, yeah? If we consider that internet begins at the beginning of 90s, the people who were born later are natives, and the people who, like me, were born before are immigrants, yeah? Well, this was nice at the beginning of this century, but nowadays, I think this metaphor is much more interesting, but because it's not related to age. It relates only to the skills and the habits you have nowadays. And you can change. if you want, and if you can. You can, this is a research that comes from Oxford University. Yeah? There is a video, we will not see the video now, but you can look for it on the net. Yeah? Here is a description about the profile of visitors and residents, but it's too detailed. And I prefer a test. Only 3 minutes and you will know if you are a visitor or a resident. Just read and answer the questions. Are you always online? You are this kind of person that feels uncomfortable or directly bad if you don't have Wi-Fi? Do you have an account in Dropbox, Drive, or iCloud? Do you take care of your digital identity? For example, from time to time, you look your name in Google search engine to see what internet says about you. You take care of this. The net is your first choice. If you have a problem, if you are looking for an information, what you do, the first is to go to the internet and search things. If the answer is yes, probably you are a resident. Okay, you are not on the net always. You have a lot of USB or pen drive that you lose in different places in the world. You store your content in the local disk. You have no accounts in the cloud. Yeah? You are not interested in your digital identity. Yeah? And your first choice is newspaper or a call, because there is always a friend that can answer your questions. You probably are a visitor. Do you think that the partner of your life, it's impossible to find the partner of your life on the net? Do you think that the important people you need to meet face to face? Probably you are a visitor. Residents think that a stupid person or an intelligent person can be always face-to-face in a party or also on the net. Okay, there is a third profile that I added to the visitors and residents, which is the tourist. Tourist is this person that don't remember the email because he or she don't uses it. Yeah. Maybe he chatted once with a relative that lives outside, yeah, and really have no idea about Dropbox, email, or pen drive. Yeah. This is a tourist that has been only maybe once in internet and have no interest in this. Yeah. So, and this is the situation now. On the left side, you have school librarians. On the right side, you have users. Yeah? Users can be residents, visitors, or tourists. It's not our problem. Yeah? We have to help them to find the books, the documents, and to read and understand them. Yeah? So the question is, which is the best profile for librarians? I think tourists will have a lot of difficulties to help the users nowadays to read or write on the net. Yeah? So we have to be visitors or residents. And the future, of course, is for the residents. It's not a choice. So let's see how is the profile of residents. A resident comes usually to the library or to the school with his or her digital gadget. A resident always takes pictures. Nobody still have taken a picture here. You can't take pictures. Resident, when use a lot of pictures, don't take notes, take pictures. Resident searches data on the handy or in the tablet as a third option. Belongs to several groups in WhatsApp, Line, Facebook, and 20. Follows the library, the librarian, in Twitter, in Facebook. Sends emails to all the people, yeah. And this is also interesting to me. as a linguist, uses linguistic resources like Wikipedia, word reference, language corpora. Yeah. So it changes all the thing. Yeah. Some of the reference books that, for example, are usually in libraries and school libraries nowadays are not useful for these people. Okay, let's go to see other situations, new situations or new features of the practices of reading and writing today. An important thing is that reading and writing is more important. We read and write more in different places with different artifacts, different kind of text. You can see here different forms. Yeah. We also write in a different way. You write Greeklish, I think you say, isn't it? You write Greek with a Latin alphabet. I know some things about this because I'm very interested in this. I know that some people think that's very bad. Youngs use it, especially on Facebook, for example, or chatting, yeah, because it's difficult to manage different alphabets, of course. Yeah. But people use it to establish identities, which is an important thing. Yeah. And you must know is that these don't make cognitive troubles to people. Yeah. Some researchers show that people had used different writing codes, internet writing, for example, or simplified writing, in some sense have the same scores at school tests. But the situation is very different depending on the practices and on the text. Yeah? And here you have three different examples. If you, for example, want to read the last novel of August or another writer, I hope you can choose to read it on paper or any book. It's the same novel. Well, what changes is the bottle. The wine is the same. Okay, maybe the bottle introduces some changes in the wine because if you are reading it on the ebook and you discover a word, an unknown word, you can do click, you can look for the meaning of this word. Or maybe you can go to Google Maps and explore a place where you have never been. Okay, so it's the same novel, but the bottle is different. Yeah, situation is quite different if we are talking about reading for information. Yeah? As when I was at the university as a linguist, I have to learn a lot about Noam Chomsky, yeah, and generative grammar, and well, I had to go to the library, to the university library, and to read syntactic structures, yeah, the book you have here. Yeah. If you, for example, now are interested in Henry Jenkins, which is an important researcher about popular culture, about fanfic, about the ways people read and write now, the first thing you will do probably is to go to Google and put Henry Jenkins. And you will arrive to his wonderful blog you have here, yeah? Akafan, because he defines himself as an academic and a fanatic, because he loved TV serials and popular culture and so on. You can also visit Wikipedia, or you can become a follower in 20 of his tweets. Yeah? And you can also listen to him in the YouTube channel. So the question is that useful in this context to go to the library to look for the last book of Henry Jenkins? Will you pay 20 euros for a book of him if you want to buy it? No, because you have a lot of information on the net. Probably it's not the same. Yeah, probably it's not the same. And books have more quality in some sense, but it's a difficult situation. Another quite different practice is the one you have on the right side with this social network. Here, the bottle, the wine, all is new. because we use it to talk face to face, taking a coffee. And nowadays, we don't have coffee. Well, we still have coffee with some people, locally, fortunately. But we spend a lot of time just interacting through social networks. Yeah? And this is an absolutely new way of reading and writing. So, if we talk about internet, we face very different situations, okay? Another important thing that people say, that researchers say, is that we are not consumers now. Uneducated people today is not a people that read a lot, but also a person who produces content, who writes, who publish things in internet. Yeah? There are three ways to publish content in internet, which are creation, aggregation, and curation. Creation is if you, for example, open a blog or open a pic gallery or a video channel on YouTube, and you produce your own videos and pics and text. This is creation. But maybe you only go to a restaurant and later you assess your opinion of the restaurant in a place or, well, on the net, yeah? Or, for example, you just answer a subject or a question in a forum, yeah? So you aggregate content, which is also important, yeah? And the last one is curation, which is becoming more and more important. That's if you don't produce any text or video or pic, you just read what others put in your wall, in the profile in Facebook, for example. But you click I like, or you share it, you are producing content because you are saying your audience that this is interesting to you and they will read it. So this is the new way to produce content. And this slide is interesting because one of the things I will explain later is that one of the ways that libraries have, especially school libraries, is to produce content, not just to store already done documents, but to produce new local content that interests the users. Okay, one of the last things I think I will explain about the situation nowadays is that internet makes that we can learn more easily more different things outside school and outside libraries, more than we use it to do or we can do many years ago. Yeah? Because 30 years ago, for example, we can interact only with our neighbors, our relatives, our colleagues at school, yeah? And that's all. But nowadays, millions of persons are on the net, yeah? And we can interact with them and learn from them. Here you have a lot of words that have been used for different people to explain this fact. Yeah, that internet is nowadays much more important to learn and gives all the people more possibilities to learn outside school. These are two important concepts that comes from education and I think are very related to libraries, which is virtual learning environment and personal learning environment. Virtual learning environment is, like you can see here, is, this. Moodle, Edmodo, Blackboard, CK are places on the internet where kids, learners, and teachers and librarians share a space, a private space for organizing the learning process. Okay? Another important concept is personal learning environment, which is all the people you know, your favorites folder, for example, yeah? All the places you visit usually, yeah? All the contacts you have on the internet, and that makes that you can be updated of information. Yeah? So the learning process nowadays is not just the classroom face-to-face place, yeah, at schools, but also these digital places, yeah, where people can learn a lot. Okay, and the last one of this section is technologies. Okay, for example, for preparing this talk, you can imagine me at home or at my desk at the university with 3, 4, 5 windows open in my screen, yeah? Word reference, Google Translation, different places on the net looking for information, libraries, school libraries, yeah. So nowadays, reading and writing, as we are doing these activities through internet and screens, are much more technological. Yeah. We are also more plural, more multimodal, yeah. And this means that we need to manage these technologies, yeah. A school library is a nice place also to help people to manage this situation. Okay, let's see now some orientations and metaphors about the present and the future of schools' libraries. This is a question of names, but some of the pictures you have seen before don't use the word school library, but use what in English could be Resource Center for Learning and Research. Yeah? Centro de Recursos para el Aprendizaje, Centro de Recursos para la Investigación in Spanish. Yeah? This is an important thing. In Catalan, we say the name makes the thing. If you want to change the concept, it's important to change the name. This is another metaphor. I have already used it, but a question I will put to the librarians. Yeah. Do we work with bottles or with wine? Do we work with bottles or do we work with people who drink wine? This is the question. For many years, I think librarians have been dealing with documents, with books, with paper, with items, with bottles. But at the age that bottles are more accessible, yeah, than people have access to the bottles directly, the question is wine. Yeah? We have to begin to change and to think that we are working with users, with learners, with kids, with adolescents, with people who come to our libraries to read, write, and do other things, to game, maybe. Yeah? This is the most important. Items are just artifacts we have there to do these activities, but the most important is the practice. Here you have more verbal and developed idea about how I see school libraries. Yeah? On the left side, you have the paper and bricks libraries that focus on resources. Yeah? And the main purpose is to look for, catalog, and store and organize documents. Yeah? They take care of heritage books, curricula, literacy canon. They are very official. Yeah? The main purpose is to give access to documents to the users. And they have a very static role, I think. And also they work in information search outline or schema. Yeah? On the other side, on the left side, you can see what I will understand is a library that still have books, of course. I don't think, and I can imagine a library without paper, without books, yeah. But maybe that have more screens and connections, yeah. And that focus on the learner than curate digital resources. So select, all the resources are already on, yeah. The question is that to select the best ones for these users. So you need to know very good these users, to know the needs, the interests, and to choose the best books for that. Yeah? The question is that users have much broader interest in and out school than before. because are much more different. Yeah. So this makes our function much more difficult. Yeah. Our purpose is also to mediate the comprehension. We have to be more dynamic. Yeah. I have been doing research on literal literacies for the last 6 or 7 years, and I have seen how kids and adolescents changes very quickly, practices. For example, I remember 6 years ago when the most cool for them was to open blogs. Yeah. One year later, I remember a student of me who said, "Professor, please, blogs are really out. We are now on Facebook." And now Facebook is out. All are in WhatsApp. Okay? So librarians have to be much more dynamic in this area, yeah? If we want to connect with kids and users. Yeah? And the last one, I will talk later about this, is we have to be more open to what happens outside school, to the different ways of literacy practices. A nice metaphor, or a nice way to see how can we imagine school libraries is this slide, where you can see that we need to construct bridges between in and out school. Yeah? As kids and adolescents are learning much more outside our schools and our libraries, we have to be more interested in what happens outside the schools, yeah? And just to try to connect both worlds. Yeah? Another interesting metaphor is this one. Probably you do the same I do in Barcelona, that at the supermarket I prefer to buy a plastic bag with a salad all together. Yeah? You can, for example, carrots, onions, or tomatoes, or lettuce, yeah? All comes together, clean, wash up. It's much more expensive, really, but I have no time. Yeah? And I prefer to buy this. Yeah. So I think libraries have the same situation. Yeah. Probably if all our users are like Auguste Courtois, we don't need plastic bag salads. Yeah? But as we want to arrive to all over the users, we need things that fit more the needs and the interests of the users. Yeah? And probably you have to think about plastic bag salads for libraries. Yeah? I think gaming is a nice way. It's gamification, an important word today. How can we learn, librarians and people who are more interested in books, how can we learn about how kids play games and are interested in this? And we can do the same things for books. This is a nice metaphor. Okay, let's see now some resources and practices. Okay, we are arriving to the last section. Okay, this is a nice plastic bag salad. You can look for them. You have to look for Silver Age, Edad de Plata. This is a repository. Yeah. Let me see here. Okay. Yes, this is a repository about vanguard art magazines that were published at the beginning of the 20th century in Spain, before the Spanish Civil War, yeah, related to an important place in Madrid, the capital, that's Residencia de Estudiantes. At this time there, important people, like Federico García Lorca, the poet, yeah, or Salvador Dalí, the painter, or Luis Buñuel, the film director, yeah, were living there and doing publishing magazines with poems, drawing, and other art in the magazine. Yeah? So in this website, you can find all this material, or the Vanguard magazines, but also you can find tools like this one you can see here, yeah, where if you, for example, put Salvador Dali here, you will see this clustering outline, yeah, with all the materials from Salvador Dali coming from these magazines, yeah, in a dynamic way that you can see how these relate one to each other. Yeah? And as closer to the center is the item, yeah, more important is. And you can, this is a dynamic tool, yeah? So this is not, it's a screen, yeah? It's not a demo, a real demo, but it takes a lot of time. But this is a wonderful example of plastic bag salads, or how can we librarians develop more sophisticated products that fits the needs and the interest of the audience. Okay, this is another interesting repository from poetry. Yeah? This comes from Barcelona. It's a research group on literacy, on poetry and education. Yeah? And it's lived poetry. Yeah? You will find here a selection of poems from authors from different languages, from different cultures, with pedagogical ideas, audio, visual material to use on the schools. I look for Greek poets, and of course, I discovered this. Yeah? You can read it on Greek, different translations also. You have here the poem in Greek, in original language, translation, pedagogical ideas, and here you will find interaction and some material. Okay, this is another very easy, very simple resource. This is another interesting idea, not very original or very complicated, but very useful. Yeah? This morning, we were talking about our talks in this Congress with journalists, and I don't remember when, but someone say, okay, but gaming is a social activity, and this is very important because it's much more interesting than reading, that supposedly it's alone, you read alone. Yeah? Well, this is a website to avoid this. This is Catalan, and you can see here, what are you reading? What are you reading, yeah? This is until 11 years old, from 12 to 16 years old, and from 17 to 100 years old. Yeah? So all of you can choose one of these three. And you can see here the number of people from Catalonia. We are a very small language. We have a very small, we have not a lot of speakers of Catalan. Yeah? So you can see all the people that uses this website. And well, here is a place where if you are, for example, interested in Harry Potter or whatever, you can find other people who are also interested in this novel or in this poem, and you can share interests, you can make commentaries here, and there is a librarian that also puts some tasks that dynamizes these websites. Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is a project coming from a secondary school in Barcelona. Kids for 3 months were enrolled in a task that consists to interview old people about his personal account or biography. Spanish people that were born at the beginning of the 20th century experimented the Spanish Civil War, have sometimes very hard personal histories about migration, looking for peace, for a job. Yeah. So this is oral biographies in a multidisciplinary project coming from language, history, and also geography. Yeah. That make teachers, librarians, and kids in a school. Yeah. Is a good example of producing content, of content production. Yeah. This is the last one, I think. Yeah. And this is about 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. It's okay. I'm happy because I'm managing the time quite good. Okay, this is the last one, and it's about literature and tourism. If, for example, you have plans to visit Spain in the next months, and you are a lover of the Spanish literature, maybe you will have interest to visit Barcelona or Madrid and to know where the important writers spend some times, where, for example, the buildings or, I don't know, facts from a novel, from the plot of a novel, were developed in the city. And here you will find guided literate tours for different authors. Yeah. This is a network of schools in Spain that work with school librarians producing these guide tours for all of you, for example. Well, let's go to my last slide. 5 main words, okay? The first one is, moment, because I'm very thirsty. First one is mediation. I think we have to focus on the practice, not in documents. Yeah, this is the one important thing. Especially if we think that our purpose is to increase reading and writing abilities. Okay. The second one is curation, an important word. Yeah. Resources are already available. The problem is not resources, the problem is selection, a critical selection. Yeah. To be a good curator and to choose the appropriate items, we need to do a good, neat analysis of the user. We have to know very well which are the interests, the motivations. So we probably need to do tests, interview, inquiries to discover these data. Yeah. The fourth idea is local content. What can we do in this global world where everything is online? Well, we can produce local content. It's the most interesting for our kids. This gives a real sense of communication to these kids. This makes activities much more interesting to them. Yeah. And the last idea is what happened out school. Yeah. It's becoming more and more important, and we need to focus on this. Okay, thank you very much.